and welcome to another Key Smash Studios video. Today we're going to be talking about how to edit materials of assets which you have downloaded from the asset store. I've imported a bunch of assets here, and this is a look into how we can change sort of how they look so they match a similar art style. Oftentimes when you download like 20 assets, they don't all quite match, so you need to edit them a little bit so the game feels continuous rather than just like I grabbed this from here and that from there and threw it all together. So how do we edit this game so it feels similar? So I will do an example with low poly on the left side and an example with high poly on the right side. With that said, if you find this to be helpful for either one, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, all that jazz. It really does help us out, and we'll hop right into it. Now on the left side of low poly, this is actually not that difficult, specifically because we're dealing with assets that just use pretty much simple shaders like this. So you can see when I click on all the low poly stuff, there is just a shader for each section of it. Like for example on this roof one, if I pull a random material here, just each section of it you just click and drag on to change the shader. But we need to create a material that matches a shader from another object. So what we're going to do here is right click, hit create material, and let's call this stone for the to match the outside of the windmill. So we need to make this satellite dish match the stone of this windmill for whatever reason, because we're combining two ages of technology. I'm not sure why. So we need to make this the same color as this stone or antenna. So the way we did this, we created our material. So now we come up here to the albedo, and with this eyedropper we're just going to select where the light's hitting the side of this building. So this will give us a pretty even midtones, highlights, and shadows version of this material. So now on this satellite dish, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag it to various parts. And you can see that there are a few parts of this that can be changed. It looks like there's two sections of the base, as well as one bit here. So let's change the base and this midsection, and we can see that this color is mirrored throughout. So we can also change the base ever so slightly with this, and then I'm going to rotate and make sure that the back changed as well. So now these two assets, if I move this close over here, are actually very similar in color, and that's what we wanted to do. If we wanted to create another material, we could just grab the brown here and drag it to here, and now they're almost the exact same color and they look like they're out of the same pack. So that's the benefit of low poly. It's actually pretty simple, but you know, the downside is that this is now an entirely new object. If you would like to have all of your future satellite dishes work like this, what you actually need to do is pull this down here and create a prefab variant, and that's how you sort of manage to change the color for all future satellite dishes. Now if I drag another one in, it'll have that same coloration. Now with high poly this gets a little bit more complicated. Obviously 3D modeling is a little more complicated with high poly, so the process of converting it is a little more complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this village well. So if I come back here to where I've imported all these assets, this is the well asset. We can take a look at some of the things that go into this well. First of all, this albedo transparency is really just the texture of it. We also have a metallic smoothness map, and that's really just to show where it's shiny, where it's not. We don't need to change that at all. And a normal map adds a little more detail. We're primarily concerned with this albedo transparency because this is where it's going to be getting its color. If I decide that, you know, if I'm looking at this and this base, this cement base, is a little bit more green than I want it to match this tree over here. That means we need to make it a little more brown, a little darker, and we need to find on this albedo where this cement comes from. Now, this is a little bit of trial and error, but for this I can pretty reasonably tell that this cement comes from this bottom section here where it's green. Obviously, the jagged marks are part of the normal, and we can verify that by coming through here. And we can see that these little jagged marks do correspond with this same area. Sometimes you can find out information from the normal, which is really helpful to locating things on the albedo. For example, if we wanted to change the roof up here, which has this very distinct ridged section, we can tell that that's actually up here on the normal. But here we wouldn't necessarily be able to guess. I mean, you might be able to guess that it's this, but it might be hidden in some other detail over here. You might think it's this or this, but no, it's this right here. So in particular, we're looking at this cement section, so we need a way to change this. So what we're going to do is right click it, hit show and explore. It's going to open up where this is stored in our Unity store. And what we're going to do is we're just going to right click it, hit copy, and then we're just going to paste to create a copy of it. Then we're going to right click and open it with Photoshop, GIMP, whatever you want to do to photo edit this. Really all we need to do is select it and change the colors of it. Now there are tons of ways to select things in Photoshop, whatever variant that you use. This is just the way that I do it because I can do it fairly quickly. So I'm going to use the magnetic lasso tool in Photoshop, and I'm just going to go along this line. And it's not going to be perfect. I'll go back and make it a little more perfect in a bit. But this is just a once pass over, and then I will continue to edit this. Once I've done the once pass over, I'll use other various tools to use Shift and Alt to continue select more. And I will come back once I have completely selected this green section. Alright, so so now I've selected this section that I suspect the cement material resides in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to image adjustments, and then I'm going to adjust the color balance of this. And I'm primarily concerned with midtones and shadows here. There aren't really many highlights that we're going to go through. But let's just pull up some of the red, pull up some of the blue. It's going to make it more of a sort of cement color. And then down here I'm just going to pull some of the yellow out and pull some of that blue back out. So this is sort of very much a more cement based color than it previously was. So I will pop up the history so we can look at the difference. See, we just took out some of the green, made it closer to what I think cement might look like. We can turn this whatever color we want if we want to do this, and we want to make it bright red. We can certainly do that. But for me, this is good. This is what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this copy. So I'm going to hit save as, save it as my copy, and we're going to go back to Unity. So in GIMP or whatever, there's going to be a little bit of variance in how you do that. But the end result is that we have two of these albedos, one with a slightly different color for one section. And what we want to do is verify that what we did when we edited that not only changed the section that we wanted on this well, but also that it didn't change another section. So let's go to the material where this well is and let's take a look at this albedo, and we'll see that because we made a copy of it in the same folder location, they're right next to each other. So this is the one that is currently on it. If I select the one that we just made, we can see that the color changed right where we thought it would. The cement at the bottom is changing from more of a greenish towards more of a traditional cement color. Now what I want to do is make sure that I don't change another section of this. So I'm going to look up at the base of this, make sure that when I'm changing this albedo that they stay the same here. I'm looking for any color variation in this range. When I'm moving these back and forth, now I'm going to go up above and make sure that it doesn't change up here. And it does not. So as best I can tell, we did not actually clip anywhere else that couldn't be clipped. And we are just changing the color of this base section. So that is how we do a high poly model to transition so it might look closer to another high poly asset. So if you have any questions on any of this, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm always more than happy to help. If you found this to be extraordinarily helpful, you can look through the link in the description. You'll find our Twitch and our Patreon. You can give a look to either one of those. We would appreciate it immensely. I would love for you to join our Discord, follow us, keep posted on what we're doing. We're building towards something big on this channel, so if you could join us, that would be fantastic. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It really does help us out, and hopefully I'll see you next week.